Nathaniel Provencio. As always, I'm with my very good friend, Dr. Worcester.
Hey, everybody.
And
Good.
coming from Palo Alto, we're next to like Elon Musk and all the ways of technology moving.
Oh, she didn't like that one.
We got Jennifer Abrams in the house. What's up, Jennifer? How you doing?
I'm well. Thank you for having me join you.
Oh my gosh. Now, I follow you like, I'm going to use the word stalker, but a gentle stalker on social media. I am so enamored with your travels and your international work. You just came back from like Asia and Norway or something. Yeah. Where have you been?
Yeah, I started, before school work is before school. So I'm literally here now because schools have started all over. And I did leadership retreats from Singapore to Hong Kong to Beijing to Shanghai to Hanoi. And then I ended with this amazing experience in a small city. It's not small. They wouldn't say it was small. Kristiansand, Norway, wow. Where I worked with about 10 or 12 people that are taking a boat out with, I'm sorry, shouldn't say boat. Oh, Tor would hate me. A ship, ship.
A scooter?
And they go out for it's called the A+ World Academy, and it's a Norwegian sailing vessel that has 66 kids from junior and senior year from all over the world that learn sailing and take their courses and go around the world through the Atlantic. And just an amazing opportunity. The point of what I was doing there was to set up not the crew, but one of the captains and then the academic team to be the best they can be together because they're going to be with each other on that ship.
Gee whiz.
So it's pretty amazing.
Jennifer, what got you into this business? We would love to get just an overview for our viewers. We're gonna go away from the ships for a second. We'll come back to that, Nathaniel.
We'll come back. We'll come back to the ships. Do you want to hear my whole
love to hear it.
Like 2 minutes of it or less?
So before you were shipping in Norway.
Yes. Before I was doing that, I was a high school English teacher. And from there, I became a new teacher coach here in Palo Alto Unified School District, which is where I'm still based, south of San Francisco, near a little university across the street called Stanford, and worked with that district for 26 years. And about 2 or 3 years before I left my work as a professional development facilitator and coach, I noticed that people didn't know how to have hard conversations very well. And so I wrote my first of 5 books. And that led me to thinking I could do this for people outside my district. I had started doing consulting and going down in percentage and building up a business. And so when, by the grace of God, the Affordable Care Act came in, I was able to become a full-time consultant. And I've been doing it now since 2013. And now primarily work, but not because of anything that is of my being. I'm happy to work domestically, but I do a lot of work internationally as well on communication, adult to adult communication in schools. That's my thing.
So you must love to travel though. I mean, you must really love to travel.
Oh, absolutely. I have cacti. I have no pets. I also don't have a spouse. I have a boyfriend who travels with me sometimes, but no children. And so it's a life that allows for more travel. But I love international travel. I love working across cultures and being in different places to see how people communicate across the globe and what we can do to make that ability to work across cultures something that we can do well. So that's what I do for a living.
It's one of those things, Jennifer, where sometimes our mission is bigger than our zip code, right?
Amen.
Right? Oh, I got an amen. Yeah, I tell this to Eric all the time. It's like so many educators feel like they have to be stuck to the village. They have to be stuck to the hamlet. And I know those kids, right? And those communities need service, but sometimes your personal mission is bigger than that zip code. And that was one of the things that I had a mentor told me when I left a very nice superintendency job. But it was like everything that I was doing was against my mission and against my purpose. And am I doing this for benefits or am I doing this to benefit others?
Beautifully
and
said.
and yeah, and I was like, and then COVID happened, and it was like, all right, this decision's easy. I'm out. You know what I mean? And I love it. And
Just working in Doha, and I was working at a British school, and then I was also working at Qatar Foundation, and that is Qataris, going to school. And I said, tell me about what I need to understand. And
mm,
there was at the British school, a woman and I were at dinner, and she said, on a daily basis, this country is not thinking about your country. They're
mm,
fine, right? You know what I mean? They're living their lives, doing
yeah,
their work, and you don't have to be thinking from this global standpoint, kind of thing. And I just remember thinking how egocentric and ethnocentric
Sure.
the United States can be. And
Yes.
it's a painful awakening to kind of just let's get your perspective into size. You are
Yep.
yeah,
one of however many billions of people on this planet. And I think that it helps me really gain an understanding of how would you like to contribute, knowing that
yeah.
there's a big world out there. My yeah, and I just yeah, it just gives me a little bit of an ego wake up, right?
Well,
It's been important.
I think that's fascinating, and I think that your work, and we're going to get into like how to deal with people, right? Being able to work with so many different people and different cultures and different kinds of programs and organizations. I mean, that's a gift, Jennifer, to give you some insight and be able to even empathize even more
Mhm,
with people, having that understanding of yourself.
mhm.
So let's get into some of those hard conversations. Fascinating work. I mean, like I was reading your work before, like Vanessa Van Edwards and some other folks that were, this is it's actually a very in vogue topic right now of dealing with difficult people. There's a book out called The Jerk at Work. I mean, but you were kind of like transcending some of this stuff and in the education field.
Mm,
And so that's, and that's why I just think public educators and educators, there's so much that we are on the cutting edge of so much. I know a lot of times businesses get a lot of like glory and things, but I think educators, because we teach everybody in America, right? I mean, and so we have to work with everybody.
right.
And we work with, just like we work with students coming, you talked about that Maslow hierarchy of needs. We're working with upper class and middle class and, families
Mhm.
struggling in poverty and all the different cultures, which is why I think America is a very underrated educational system, because we deal
Yeah,
with everybody,
right.
but not just the students, it's the teachers and the staff as well. Great book, having hard conversations. That's one that I want to kind of lead into. You talked about that, and you sound like you're from Minnesota. Are you from like the
Yes,
Midwest?
yes, sir. Yes, I
So
am.
like that's not a like I'm from the South too. We just say bless your heart and we never handle anything. I think in Minnesota it's probably similar, like very passive aggressive kind of stuff, right?
We just keep it to ourselves. It's too cold
Yeah,
for
it's too cold to
significant
fight.
amount of time per year that you just try not to have those conversations.
Yeah.
I was not raised in a family or in a culture that really spoke up. It was viewed as gauche. It was too direct.
Sure.
Um, and yet, and yet, we have a vice presidential candidate who's finding his voice around what matters. Things have shifted. There's
Yeah.
no doubt. Post George Floyd
Yeah.
in Minneapolis, things have really come to the surface where people are saying, you know what, we need to find our voice around what matters. We need to speak up around things, but do so
Yeah.
in the with the ethic that we are in Minnesota, in a humane and growth producing way. So we
Always.
do that. And that would work across the South, across any kind of culture. That's really where the work came from, that I didn't have a background in it. And from family or from my Midwestern upbringing, but the entire profession
Yeah.
of educators also did not speak up. We're known to be nurturing,
Yeah.
known to be kind. It
Yes.
is not appropriate. In fact, when I first put out the first draft of the first book, the Hard Conversations book, I received feedback. My editor received feedback It's not appropriate for anybody other than an administrator to know this. We shouldn't be.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it was very difficult. And then we published it anyways. And it's now been years and years and years, and people are thinking about it. And so when you said cutting edge, I was ahead of when people found that to be acceptable. I mean, it was not appropriate. Now we're having those conversations. Yeah, we're having them.
Yeah, Jennifer, I've got this theory that our schools are the most passive-aggressive organizations on earth. I don't have any research to back it, but my qualitative, and don't be giving me dirty looks over there, Eric, because you know it's true, right?
On earth, Jennifer.
On earth. That is my
the most
theory.
Passive-aggressive.
It's an interesting way of talking about it. I would say that it has, I wouldn't disagree with you in a way that I know that the system, the profession, the gender of I'm a woman, I identify as a woman. Many of us were not taught because we're told that that's too aggressive.
Sure.
So passive aggressive sort of works more effectively to express your anger, and does it. But I would suggest that we have focused, so that I'm going to put it in a different way.
There you go.
More on a child's development and conflict resolution on a playground.
Sure.
Than we have on adult development and expressing concerns in a humane way.
And it's kind of backwards. Because like, if we as adults can learn how to deal with our traumas, learn how to deal with our triggers, learn how to deal with what terrifies us. Oh, those all rhyme, right? Terrors, triggers, and traumas. Yeah, they all start with T, right? I'm sucker for that. Then maybe could deal with the students' terrors, the traumas, and all of those things. But we don't, because it's scary. Jennifer, it's kind of a scary place, right?
Well, we chose not to focus on adult to adult communication. We wanted to have a different relationship to the people that we work with. We wanted to be in control. We wanted to understand the subject better than those that we were with. And sometimes when we PLC or when we collaborate, I will often say and fair enough, focuses on the kids.
Yeah.
But the question for me always is, are we developing our professionalism, our ability to be learners, and our ability to be in community?
Yeah, sure.
And what do we need to work on in ourselves in order to be that P, L, and C? And I've been told by many people, we don't have time for that.
We don't have time.
We don't have time. And it's how necessary is this? Where everybody's over the age of 18. And I say, I completely understand. And this is not to judge people and their lack of awareness around triggers, traumas, and
terrors or whatever. Yeah.
Right, terrors. But we need to take a look at it because it is affecting our ability to teach as best as we can. There's a woman who I saw on Instagram. Her name is Mrs. Kalman. So I'm just going to cite her.
Yeah.
She has a quote that I use. Somebody is learning how to be a person by watching you. Let that sink in.
Wow, that's awesome.
At which point it's like, okay, you got to start looking and modeling, and we need to look at our stuff. And it is scary. And yet, if we're going to be a system, a profession that is the best, or that wants to grow, or that is into experimentation, growth, innovation, and working on the skills that students will need into the future, we need to develop ourselves. And that's really, and that's where I go to my stretching stuff, my clarifying conversations before my hard conversation stuff, because there's just so much to do to create that mindset and that culture. Then if people are not living up to what we had stated, dreamed to be doing, then we can have hard conversations with them. I think, and most people are always like, we want you to come in and do hard conversations.
Give the hard conversations.
And I say, have you had clarifying conversations about how people, excuse me? We'll have to get back to you on that, right? And so they've never stated what they're hoping. So then you could go, well, Nate, Nathaniel, as we agreed, Now
that's what
I
you
can
said
hold you
before.
accountable. But they're like, oh, we know, I didn't know that. Is that what you wanted? You never told me that. You never wrote that down. You never really directly said that.
Yeah.
Well, you're supposed to read my mind.
You know, Jennifer, it's,
And I hear superintendents and heads of schools say that all the time. They're not in my head. How come they don't do this?
it's hard to call people out if we don't have anything to call them into.
Correct. Amen. I'm
right?
sorry.
Yeah, I got two amens. We're about to do some
I'm
Pentecostal
tracking it,
pedagogy
I'm
over
tracking it,
here.
don't worry.
But it is, I see that all the time. I ask Eric, it's crazy. Every time I work with a school, I always ask the principal or whoever I talk to, I say, hey, just before I come in, can you just tell me your vision statement real quick? I just want to know your vision statement real quick.
And they can't.
They're like, oh, hold on, I think it's online.
It's on the wall.
It's on the wall somewhere. I know there's a mural and it says
Right.
all kids and this and that. I'm like we forget so often that that's the North Star to how to call people in. And if I'm hiring you, like if you don't fit kind of or contribute or enhance our vision and mission and our purpose, then it's just the wild freaking West, man, you know? And that's why I often say it's like kind of like this passive aggressive culture because we're just fighting for ourselves. And when you fight for yourselves, you retreat to what's safe. And it's safe to close your door and not have to talk to other adults. And it's safe not to be vulnerable. And it's safe. I mean, it's not effective, but at least it's safe.
Right.
Right.
And
so
safe,
anyway.
and safe sometimes is important. I call that my very, very talented, capable elementary school colleagues. I call it the people who've already laminated everything. They're just, it's safe. It's like, I know it's
file folder too.
It's already in the file. You pull it out and there's no modification. There's no risk taking. There's no maybe redoing it for the next. And that is not true about everybody, but that's that safe place where you're like, I had it down, you know, like, and that happens to me too. Like, I'm happy, like, I was going to go do the session, you know, I was just going to do it and it was going to be great. And I've got the PowerPoints and I don't have to change anything. And then the best part though, is when somebody says, you know what, we need you to just go 20 degrees to this side and we need you to adapt it for this part of who we are. And I'm like,
I got to differentiate.
I had to laminate. I'd have to differentiate. And then it's so much more relevant, useful, interesting, you know, just in time, right on the new, you know, way of thinking about something. That's what we need to be doing more often. And we have to have the capacity to adapt.
Yeah.
But we have to not lose it and just fall over when that happens. And I don't know how easy that is for everybody because it's just safer to go with it's already made.
Sure.
It reminds me a little bit of people who go to a restaurant and always order the same meal.
Right.
So they always get the same thing because that's the safe thing to get. So you don't know you don't love this option because you never try it because you know that you have this and you like it. I know this lesson worked with this group back in 1970. It's got to still work.
Right.
Jennifer, I would love to hear about the genesis of your work and how you decided I want to delve into the world of having challenging conversations. And then what was your process in getting your book written?
The first book, the process was watching it not go well. I was a new teacher coach and I was privy, respectfully and gratefully privy to a lot of conferences, like follow-up conferences, evaluation conferences, and with new teachers. And I was like, that could have been said differently. That could have been done differently. And over a period of a couple years, I didn't find anything out there for educators.
No, there wasn't.
Having hard conversations, not dealing with difficult people, because that wasn't the people I'm talking about were not difficult.
Yeah, sure.
Or dealing with a difficult parent. It was always the other was difficult. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like on your side of the net. How can I speak up around what I see is important and do it in the best way possible? So I didn't see any of that in our field. In other fields, absolutely. In our field, no, not going to happen this way. So I wrote myself a workbook. And so that's where the genesis of that book came. And it took a couple years because I literally was studying with people and watching and reading and taking classes and writing it on Saturdays and Sundays.
Wow.
And crying because I then had a developmental editor who said, you know what would be really useful here? You need to add this and you need to add that. And I was like, you know, and really get in there and do it at a very explicit way, and detailed. And that took a lot of time because I wanted to make sure that the words were right, but it got done and it changed my trajectory.
Awesome.
But it was not simple, but that's the genesis. Was I saw a need. I did not see anybody filling that need. And then I just did frickin' hard work.
That's awesome. So many people say, Jennifer, that I wrote a book, but I wrote it for me.
Yeah.
I didn't write it for anybody else. I just wrote it because I want a damn book that I could write that no one else, and I'm just doing this for me.
Good.
I've been trying to write a second book for others and I can't do it.
Right.
I can't do it. Right. And I gotta and I know it'll come, you know, and I listen to a lot of Rick Rubin. I love Rick Rubin. Eric, do you ever listen to any Rick Rubin stuff?
Nope.
Fascinating. Music producer. Yes. Awesome. And he's got this whole book
about art as a creative actor, the creative actor.
Art as a creative act. Yeah. And the best musicians, the best writers write for themselves. And as a producer, he just says, I just want to produce things that I like selfishly. And then if anyone else listens to it, then that's bonus. I think that's great.
I always kind of giggle about, you know, dang, what I should have done is written something that was for the masses. Like everybody needs instructional strategies or literacy, or you're going to get so many more people because it's outside them. It is required by their position to study that content in order to be successful in that job. The work I'm doing is internal.
Yeah.
It's difficult, and it's a slice of people who want to go on that journey.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm like, but that's my people.
I love it. I love it.
That's who I wrote for. And that's actually who I've written every book for.
I love it. I think that's cool. And they're great. Gee, and you've written five of these. Wow. That's great. So Jennifer, let me delve into a little bit. I want to kind of think about leadership, because, you know, sometimes leaders set the course, they set the direction, they provide the ecosystem for teachers and staff members to have the opportunity to have these conversations. Some of the best principals that I've ever worked with, not that it was always perfect, but I'll go back. They understood a clear vision and mission. They had collective commitments, like as a staff, this is what we commit to do. This is how we're going to comport ourselves. This is how we're going to behave. We were trying to be the number one Title I school in Virginia, or and you know, our mission statement is this, and we're going to pull you on, and we're going to allow our teams to, you know, get to know each other and create norms, you know, so that we can actually comport ourselves when we're doing the work, when we're collaborating. What else could leaders do to foster a safe environment to outside of kind of like what I just talked about, so that they can empower their teachers to kind of like have those kind of like quality relationships with each other? What are some other thoughts from your experiences at your work that a leader can do to foster that kind of ecosystem of trust and commitment? You know, all those kind of like dysfunctions of a team that Pat Lencioni talks about. How do leaders do that?
They model. They teach. If people bring them something, an idea, they suspend their certainty that their way is the best way, and they ask questions, and they modify if they can. They don't emotionally pollute a given situation. When they are when they receive feedback, they actually listen to it and don't collapse or get angry. But they model that. They might name that. They might sort of, you know, like the people do think alouds.
Yeah, sure. Metacognitive kind of like,
you really have to like mention that that's what they're doing. They provide scaffolds for I want to hear about your concerns.
Yeah.
And here are some ways to express it to me so that I can hear it. And one of them is to do it in a specific way so that they're not complaints,
Yeah.
which is hard for me to hear. But you actually build skills and model skills that people that are psychologically mature and collaboratively capable live every day. And you actually name them and you model them and you teach them and you spot them and you label them. So you're really naming all the stuff that I would call the behind the scenes curriculum, behind the scenes skills that you need in order to be a leader, to be a colleague, to be a professional. You actually bring that out so that people go, wow, you're right. Thank you for not jumping on me with that. Thank you for being open to my feedback here. Thank you for listening to me with an open mind. Like, they're living the stuff that they wish that the ecosystem would have within it.
That's fascinating.
They're really, really explicit about it.
You know, Eric, I don't know. Now, Eric, Dr. Worcester you do professional development for teachers and leaders, Eric, or is it mainly teachers?
Mostly teachers.
Mostly teachers.
Yeah.
Eric, in your travels and in your work,
yeah,
is there a place? I don't think those are soft skills, Jennifer. I think those are hard skills.
I know.
I mean, I think those are like
interpersonal intelligence skills.
Oh, absolutely. It's
not
like
easy.
That's IQ, right?
Yeah.
Eric, are your teachers like learning this stuff, or is it like how to do curriculum? Like,
yeah,
where are you guys with this?
So, I mean, we all know the importance that relationship building has in our classrooms and within our buildings. The challenges, Nathaniel, it goes to what you alluded to earlier. I think challenges that you heard in your former position, Jennifer, I'm sure you've heard this as well. It comes down to communication. And one person's idea of what is proficiency in communication is somebody else's. Yeah. So you, as a leader or as a teacher, can feel you're phenomenal in communication, but that doesn't matter like people might think it does. What matters is those who are receiving the message feel that it has been communicated adequately. And I just don't know that whether you're a teacher doing that with your students. And sometimes I ask that question, Nathaniel, is how do you know how your students are feeling? What can you show me? Whether that be, oh, we do a Friday exit ticket, I ask them this, or I do a quarterly survey with them, or I do something. But if you have nothing, yeah, the feeling is great. Like, I'm glad you feel it's going well, but I prefer if you can show something, whether you're a teacher or an administrator or whatever you're doing, right? Something that you can use to gauge how the communication needs of your stakeholders are being met. And as classrooms change and schools change, those needs also change, because you don't ever have it. You're always getting it as long as you're working towards it.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I like that idea about communication needs. I was working, in I don't know how many countries and different places, over the last couple of weeks. And there's always we need more communication. We need clearer communication. We're finding, and that is absolutely true. For some, it really is about clarity. They're not sure about at a level that is practical.
Yeah.
So people have given mission, vision, and all of that, and it's too global. And if you have to actually live it aloud, they need examples. And the person that's leading it hasn't gotten that into they would maybe call it, which is not a good communication technique, in the weeds.
Oh, right.
In the weeds. It's about clarifying at a level that somebody can visualize it in their day to day.
Yeah.
So, and not make the person wrong.
Yeah.
For wanting that. So there's that clarity of communication needs. We were talking today, I was having a talk with a principal today, where there's sometimes communication is not good. And she said, that's really code for, I didn't get what I wanted. No, the communication was fine. We both understood what was asked for. I just disagreed and made a different decision. So that's an interesting kind of conversation of what are you clear with why I didn't choose that? How did, and so
Mhm.
you say, no, I wrote it down. So there's just communication needs are fuzzy, but to model
Yeah.
the level that the people that are getting that from you can pick up, not like, and that's thinking from a principal's, taking a field trip to a teacher's world from a superintendent's world
Sure.
and how they think and where their focus is and how they need things articulated or written out or done just in time or in
Yeah.
this form. That's the stuff where I don't know if we're modifying clearly
Oh,
enough.
of course not. Yeah. And that builds empathy. I mean, and
Yes.
that's and so much of the breakdowns, what I think is that people wanting to satisfy their own needs
Mhm.
without understanding the needs of who they're working with. It's like the difference between the golden rule and the platinum rule. I don't know if you know that, if you've heard of
I
that,
don't
Jennifer.
know that.
You don't know that.
I don't know the platinum rule.
So the golden rule, Minnesota South, is do unto
Yes.
others as you would have them do
Yes, that
to
I remember.
you, which is kind of self-centered. All right, when you
And then the platinum rule is do unto others as they would.
they
Yes.
they need it, which
Yes.
takes a level of
Beautiful.
taking a step back and empathizing with them.
Yes.
I used to tell my
Yes.
front office
That's
secretaries, my front office lighthouse folks, I used to call them, like, guys, when you got a parent or a student or a teacher that is upset, just think about it from their perspective before your perspective.
Mhm.
And if you can take a pause and separate, sometimes physically separating yourself and just, okay, this person needs this. This person is coming from this. This person is just lost everything in their life and there's a need that hasn't been met. That's the platinum rule. Companies like the Ritz-Carlton and all these, they figured that stuff out, right? But I think the golden rule is nice, but it's a little self-centered.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way of putting
yeah.
it. Thank you. I may steal that. I may
No,
steal
yeah, still, because I sure stole it from
but yeah,
somewhere.
it probably wasn't yours to begin with. But
Yeah, probably. It's the universes. It is
I
the
will take it
universes
from
to
you.
share.
I will
Yeah.
take it through you.
There we go.
And it's interesting. There's this, I think I did get this from Daniel Pink. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yes.
any of Daniel Pink's work. And
Yeah.
he might have got it from Simon Sinek or Vice or some like it was
They
the
all hang
universes
out at
together.
the same place. Yeah.
Absolutely. They probably chat GPT'd it. It's a great acronym called FBI. Feelings, behavior, and impact. And it might be one of those things where I say, Eric, I feel that I'm feeling negative energy from our meetings. You come in, we have an agenda, Eric, and we love you to death, but you don't really contribute to any of the meetings, and you don't say anything. But I could be wrong, but it's just this feeling that I get that you just don't contribute and you don't want to be here. It's really bad energy. If that behavior continues, the impact is I don't know if I can trust you to be one of our teammates.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hard conversation to say, but damn, that could be very impactful.
It could be, especially if you have some real specific behaviors that the person has done. You came late to our meeting last week, and then when in the meeting you did or didn't do this, said or didn't say this, and then just today you did this, didn't do this, and there was an impact of those behaviors. One of them was a feeling that I had, but one of them was that the team didn't get your blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
I don't think that that's inaccurate. It's, if you can, I call that, and with great honor to the late John Lewis, I call that necessary trouble.
Sure.
It's going to be troubling to say it, but it's necessary because it's getting in the way of you being able to do the best you can for the school and for the students.
Yeah.
So it's troubling, but it's necessary. And how do you say it? At least you're not like, Eric, for the last 180 days, I've collected data.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I do think the impact needs to be somewhat quantifiable and clear.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you're saying the impact is I can't trust you, you'd be like, well, you can't trust anybody, so I don't care.
Exactly.
If you said the impact is we can't
much
plan
more
effective lessons because of this, It's going to impact our student scores.
Sure.
And yes, I'll buy
Yes.
that. If the impact is, well, you're making me mad. Like, well, he's mad
Yeah.
anyway, so I don't care.
So I think with something like that, it has to be specific.
Yes.
Yeah.
And real. It can't just
real.
be my feelings. It's got to be, this is actually having an impact on this thing.
Blank.
That's not just a pet peeve of mine. Well, I don't
Yes.
like they didn't look at me and they're not nodding every time I talk.
Right.
It's you're impacting student achievement. You are
Right.
impacting the ability of our team to function effectively to make this thing happen for us.
Correct.
Yeah, those like really like DEFCON 5 things. I think people
wouldn't
need to.
consider that DEFCON 5.
Yeah, it may not be. It may be DEFCON 1.
That's
You know what I mean?
that's my opinion on that. I mean,
Yeah.
DEFCON 5,
But-
gosh.
Oh yeah, DEFCON 5 is like I'm calling like the Wall
Right,
Street Journal,
right.
I guess. Yeah.
Right. But to me, that's painful. It was painful for two different moments, and it is worthy of expressing it.
I
because
agree.
it's getting in the way of us being able to do the right work for students.
And I just don't think educators,
No,
I think
we
they
don't
need
have-
they need to practice.
they
like-
go out to the parking lot and they complain
Oh,
about
they
it.
practice it on
They
Facebook.
go to the principal and complain about it. So they know what they're talking about. We just need to give them the sentence stems, and
Yeah.
then we need to normalize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so my partner and I, my partner's name is Stuart Levine. He also in corporate wrote books, the Book of Agreement, Getting to Resolution. I'm just looking to see where his books are.
Cool.
And he and I have a check-in every Sunday. And we've been dating for 4 years. And
Yeah.
and I'm changing it and moving it into team stuff. But one of the questions is there anything that you feel incomplete about? Need to talk about at this time? And usually something will come up. You interrupted me and it embarrassed me in front of my friends, or when you shushed me, you used that tone and it was right in front of someone and it made me reminded me of my mother, and I hate that. And
Wait, are you talking about me? Because
is that right? But I mean, so if you talk about these little moments,
Yeah.
they're behaviors that I did that then, had an impact on our relationship, on his ability to keep going in the dinner, feeling
Yeah.
good. And oh, okay, I can change that. Do you see what I mean? Like that one thing. So
Yep.
if we in a team got courageous enough to, if you feel incomplete and something is still niggling at you, you need to speak up about it, because it's going to show up next week and the week after, and you need to be able to talk about it. Oh, they're just, I'm not, oh, you're going to accuse me of being too sensitive.
Right.
Or you're going to accuse me of, the answer is there was an impact.
There was an impact. And the
And
impact is
so-
ultimately student learning. That's the key.
Right.
It's
right.
not about us, it's about the students that we serve.
Right. And there's a direct link in the work by Tony Brick and Barbara Schneider that I talk about, that they did early in the 2000s, but I love it. It was at the University of Chicago, adult to adult relational trust. They made the link between adult to adult communication and student achievement.
Oh, wow.
They really did make that like a line. It's not like a dotted. It's not
Yeah.
like, they
Makes
literally
sense.
said these things do ultimately, as Eric was mentioning, get to student achievement. You don't want to go to the meeting. You don't get the idea. You don't then
You don't get the idea, you don't get the student result.
Correct.
Jennifer, let me ask you one last question from me.
Please.
Are you seeing a change from when you first wrote your book to the education system today? So are those conversations, do you think people have them differently, receive them differently? Do you see changes in 2024? Because
Yeah.
our school systems, they have changed. Our workforce demands have changed. And I'm not saying 20 years ago, you should have just said, if you're not on board with my vision, get out. But if you say that now, you'll have no one left.
Right. Right. I was just going to say, generationally and work shortage, teacher shortage. I think that the work in the US around DEI brought to the fore the ability, the understanding that uncomfortable conversations need to be there to serve all students. That particular piece came in. And it should have always been there, and I'm thanking them
Sure.
for, as a white woman, a cisgender woman, to bring some of that conversation and awareness to my life. That was uncomfortable. So they built up the people that were really working on it. And I'm also an ally and I'm also contributing to that. But the people that I learned from put me in a space in the last 15 years to sit in more discomfort in difficult conversations. Between that and my book, I think we're better at it. I think we're able to talk about hard conversations more. I think data, teams, and street data and having to look at things has required us to sit more in inner and outer hard conversations in a better way. I think that the globe and what's gone on has asked us to talk about polarizing topics and war, and just social media and media in general has shown us into our homes a lot more than maybe we even saw 50 years ago. So
for sure.
I think it's all contributing to it. I know also with, Jonathan Haidt and the coddling of the American mind and just generation and all of that stuff, we are fragile and COVID and learning us. And yet I do believe that there is a way that I've seen people become more open to wanting me to come. That could also be, oh, you're an overnight success. 14 years later, they know your name.
Oh, there's no overnight successes. Yeah. That's
right. No, I'm like, so all of a sudden they want hard conversations from me. But I think people are saying we're willing to sit in the training.
I love it.
We're willing to think about this.
Jennifer, as our teaching demographics evolve, where you might have had a staff that knew each other literally for 20 years.
Yeah.
Right. Baby boomers started together. They're all retiring. Like that was kind of like the norm, not that long ago.
Yeah.
But like Eric, and you see this too. Now you've got the Great Resignation was real. Like it's as real as anything. You may have teachers that are paraprofessionals, long-term subs, overseas teachers from, everywhere, the Philippines, Jamaica. You're trying to get a staff that are exceedingly different, just like what you were talking about, culturally, ethnically, everything together.
Age-wise,
Age-wise, everything.
Yeah.
You will have to create an ecosystem, leaders that, are community connection leaders that are talking, to be able to give people the space to have hard conversations.
There we go.
Stretch that leading edge, absolutely. Because we can't take each other for granted anymore.
No.
I think that's why I'm so just inspired by you and honored to have you on this to share this journey with us. Because this is the message, that different kind of EQ/IQ is more important than any curriculum that you can buy, more important than any damn intervention that you could buy with quote unquote fidelity. If you don't have anyone in your building, then it's all a waste of time and money. And I think there was a Gallup poll research that came out. I don't know when it came out, but it said that the number one reason why people are happy at work is because they have a friend at work. They can point to a strong relationship. Trust
in teams, like you just said, Jennifer.
Absolutely. So if research says that it's relationships that keep us together, and we don't know, and we're coming from a place of, like insular, kind of like hiding from each other and being passive aggressive and just getting through the day, it is in a leader's best interest to invest in this work, because that's how you keep your people. And if without people, you got nothing, right?
Yep. Right. Thank you.
Jennifer, where can people find you to find out more?
They can find me at my website, which is jenniferabrams.com. They can find me on X at Jennifer Abrams. They can find me on Facebook at Jennifer Abrams. I'm not an Insta person all the time, which is a whole interesting piece about work style and visuals and writing but I should be more.
You were holding a book up for those who are just listening. What was that book you were showing us?
This was my last book called Stretching Your Learning Edges, Growing Up at Work.
And
that's really about creating a healthy adult professional culture in your school.
Great.
Jennifer, you are a blessing to this profession. Keep traveling, keep doing your work, keep having those hard conversations, and I can't wait to read your next one.